Hello and welcome to the Creative Lotus Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Zaki.
I say I am the luckiest person in the world, and I really believe that. And now I feel really lucky that I get to do what I love, support myself doing it, meet amazing people. I just feel like truly blessed. I feel very lucky. I tell myself that every day, and I feel like that just kind of opens myself up to great possibilities.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Creative Lotus Podcast. On this week's episode, we have celebrity makeup artist Aaron Paul. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, so nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to see you. It's been way too long. And I'm really excited to hear your personal story and kind of, to dive in. So I always like to start off everything just asking for a little bit of background of, maybe where you're born and raised, kind of what was your childhood like, and then ultimately kind of what led you to here in Los Angeles.
Okay. It's actually kind of an interesting story how I fell into doing makeup, but I grew up in a really small town in Western Kentucky, called Calvert City. It's it's also known as Possum Trot. That's how country it is.
Wow. Love it.
And it's like 2,500 people, so not
Wow.
even 3,000 people. So it was actually a pretty lovely place to grow up. I lived in the country, and it had its struggles with small town mentality, but overall it was pretty nice. And I came out to California, gosh, 17 years ago, right
Oh,
out of
wow.
high school, to pursue being a makeup artist. But becoming a makeup artist was really kind of a last minute decision for me.
Hmm.
My whole life, I actually wanted to be a marine biologist, and
Wow.
I was very focused on math and science in school, and I'm actually a scuba diver, so it is
Wow.
still an interest of mine.
Okay.
But when I was 17, my older sister got one of Kevin Aquan's books for Christmas,
Mhm.
and I was so jealous. And I was just amazed. I'd never seen anything like it. Like being a makeup artist never even crossed my mind before. So I just kind of decided, I think I'm going to do this. So
Wow.
after high school, I put all my shit in my car and came out here by
Wow.
myself and went to makeup school. I had a background in art. I
Mhm.
grew up as a dancer,
Wow.
and I have a lot of artists in my family. My grandmother's a painter. My uncle does pottery and painting. So I've always been around art and been a creative person. And so even though it was like a whim decision, I feel like I got redirected where I needed to go.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And what a cool start to get into the makeup industry in the world, and also to have like so many other passions as well. I think like so many people are usually like determined like this is what they, but also not at that age. I mean, that's kind of amazing. In high school, you kind of made this huge decision to like
Yeah.
leave, Kentucky and come to a city like Los Angeles at such a young age. Was there any hesitation there, or were your parents kind of freaked out that you were just going to like
Mhm.
move out to LA on your own in this crazy ass city?
Um, my family was like a little scared for me, but
Yeah.
my whole life I just always wanted and felt like I was gonna live somewhere else.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I'm thankful for where I grew up, but it was kind of a tough place to be different. And I was like definitely visibly gay since I was a little kid. So that came with
same.
its challenges. And
Yeah.
I just always knew I was going to move.
Got it.
Yeah, even if I wanted to hide it, I couldn't. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Like, even as a kid, I remember I was obsessed with Nick at Night, and
Mm,
especially Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie were like my favorite shows.
yeah.
And I remember as a little kid thinking, the people on TV don't have accents like everyone
Mm,
around me. So I actually escaped with very little accent because I'm like, I want to talk like people on TV.
wow.
So I
Interesting.
always knew in my mind that I was different and I was going to go somewhere.
I love it. Yeah. You had that determination. He was like, I'm not made for this city, honey. I'm going to bigger places and get rid of this
For
accent
real.
that's not even going to exist.
And
Wow.
on, yeah. And honestly, like when you're 17, 18, it's like you don't think about the things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
Like that didn't even cross my mind. I was just so ready to go somewhere, do something different, be another place. So it was pretty ballsy when I look back on it. And now if I like had to move somewhere where I didn't know anyone and start all over, like I would have a full on panic attack.
Yeah.
So
It's almost
I was
the
pretty ballsy back then.
seriously, I was like the most amazing thing I think about a youth, right, is that you like have very little cares. So you kind of do things, but now that you've like, you're an adult and you've gone through life and have to do all this stuff, as an adult, you kind of like, yeah, you get less and less ballsy to kind of just go and pick up everything and leave and just go and, try something new. So yeah, it kind of takes that, for lack of a better term,
Yeah,
chutzpah, to just do it. I'm
right.
curious, do you still have, I'm guessing, a love for like marine biology or kind of the ocean aquatic kind of life? And I know you said that you still do scuba diving as well. How often do you get to kind of
I do.
go around?
Not as much as I would like to. I actually just went on this incredible trip over the holidays to Costa Rica and I did this
Mm.
volunteer program, scuba
Oh,
diving,
oh
where
wow.
you get to work with marine biologists and help them collect data while you're diving.
Wow.
And so that was really cool to like unofficially be a scientist.
Yes.
But I love what I do. I could not go to college. There's just no way.
I
I don't
love
have the
it.
discipline, the attention span. I can barely even read anymore because our phones have made us so ADD.
I know, right? It's so funny. I know. Like 7 to 15-second clips is
Yeah,
all we can handle. It's kind of sad. I think everyone's becoming ADHD slowly but surely.
I know it's
Yeah.
depressing.
Programming us otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, kind of like what was your experience like coming to LA, first moving here? Like 17 years old is very young, and coming to a big city like Los Angeles can be really daunting. I know that I came down here at like 21 and freaking out. So what was it like for you?
Yeah. So when I first moved out here, I actually lived in Orange County, like in the
Okay.
Laguna area, because it was the only place I'd ever been in California before, because my best friend in high school was from Laguna Beach. And that was
Oh,
like at the time of Laguna Beach on MTV, so I was
oh yeah.
like, Laguna's what's up. So I moved there, and I actually ended up going to makeup school in Orange County.
Mm,
The school's not open anymore, but
mm,
the woman who taught me, her name is Donna Me, and she still teaches workshops and stuff. So if you're interested, definitely look her up. I had never done makeup before, ever.
mm.
I just like was really gambling on this.
Wow.
And it's interesting because I found out about this school from some woman that I met at a Nordstrom Dior counter while my friend was buying perfume. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, how did you get started in makeup?" She told me about this school. I went to go tour it, and then as soon as I walked in the door, it was a giant framed photo of that Kevin Aquan book,
Oh wow.
and it was signed from him. He was friends with the owner, and he would tell people, he had already passed away by the time I got into makeup, but he would tell people to go to her if they were interested in becoming a makeup artist. So
Hmm.
it was just really like fate that I ended up there. But back to what we were saying about just the difference in culture, it was a kind of a culture shock for me because I come from somewhere where there's like literally no diversity.
Mm,
Everyone's white, everyone's Christian, most everyone is conservative. So
hmm.
it was a culture shock, but in the best way. Like to me back then, coming from where I came from, I'm like, Orange County is so liberal. This is so cool. But now that I live in LA, I'm like, oh, I see why people say it's conservative.
Mm.
But back then I didn't really have a reference point to compare it to.
Right. Right. It was completely different from what you were used to, which was yeah, back in Kentucky. So yeah. Hindsight is always
Yeah.
2020, as they say, right? Yeah. All right. I'm curious, kind of how long was your program in makeup school? And then did you stay in the Orange County?
Mhm.
Did you stay in the OC and kind of like build your clientele there? Or did you move to LA right
Sundance.
after? Exactly. Such as the OC.
Such as the Orange County.
Exactly.
Um, Funny story, I was actually there for that pageant doing makeup.
Oh, wow.
When
Wow.
that girl gave that awful pageant answer, my friend's like,
So
you should
good.
write a book about all the crazy stuff you witnessed in your life.
Yeah,
But anyway, ADHD, sorry.
you're good.
What were you asking me again?
No, just curious, like how long your program was at school, and then
Oh,
like, yeah,
school. Yeah.
go back to school. Go back to school.
Okay, okay. So I went for, it was probably close to a year. Um, it was a lot of hands-on stuff. The teacher I learned from, she actually taught makeup from kind of a scientific perspective based
Hmm.
on color theory and lighting and angles that were almost mathematical.
Hmm.
Um, so such a valuable tool because it's almost like when I see someone, I can, what's that math movie about the guy that does the equations? I don't remember, but it's like it just comes to me and it's like a math equation. Like I can just see what I'm supposed to do and where things are supposed to go
Hmm.
because of that type of training.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress again. Um, I went for about a year and I also learned like special effects and character makeup and making, prosthetics, but I was just not into that. I always was like, I just want glamour and beauty all the
Hmm.
time. So, I finished school and I was actually working at a Dior counter while I was in school, just
Hmm.
as my first makeup job. And I stayed in Orange County for several years, just doing retail really because it
Hmm.
was great practice. I really got to hone my skill because, like I said, I'd never done makeup before until I went to school.
Right.
So it made sense in my mind, but it took a while for my hands to really catch up to it.
Got it.
So retail was like the best practice. I got to work on like all different ages, all different ethnicities, and I I enjoyed that time. It was kind of nice when I look back on it.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I think that yeah, learning your craft, but then like you said, almost like putting in your dues or putting in the time, working retail and kind of learning how to use it is
Mhm.
probably wiser than just thinking that like, well, I have this degree now and like I'm just gonna go take on Los Angeles or the world, and kind of, get all these clients or whatever. But
Right.
so what was kind of your process like from staying in Orange County rather, the Orange County, and then ultimately coming to LA? At what point did you feel like you were ready, or was there some specific event that happened where you felt like, okay, this is the moment that I need to move to Los Angeles so I can expand?
Okay. I hope you're ready for a long story.
I'm
Um,
all ears. Let's go.
so I did retail for several years. Great practice, but working with the public is very challenging,
Hmm.
especially in retail. So after several years of working in retail, I was just like so over it. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. What am I going to do with my life? And I was so scared to take a risk then. And it's such a risk to like go out and not have steady employment and be a freelance artist. Like, that's
Yeah.
pretty terrifying. I had actually gone back to Kentucky for maybe 6-ish months
Hmm.
and
Okay.
left retail. And while I was there, one of my grandfather was um, in the terminally ill. So
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time with him. And the last conversation we had together, he was telling me about how he started working when he was 8 years old. He shined shoes because he was very poor in
Hmm.
Tennessee, like Dolly Parton poor. Um, and then he ended up becoming a successful like insurance agent that owned his own business. So
Okay.
he told me like every job he ever had and what kind of risks he had to take from this one to that one. And he just said, if you want to be successful, you just have to go for it. And it is a risk and it's going to be scary, but you won't have the reward if you don't take the risk.
Hmm. Right.
So after he passed away, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. So then when I came back to California after that, Um, I was teaching at the makeup school I went to at night
Hmm.
so that during the day I could do test shoots and, work on my book because
Got
I
it.
didn't really have much to show from working in retail for so long. I also started assisting some celebrity artists while I was doing that. And then eventually I just ended up working so much in LA within probably the first year of freelancing that I'm like, I think it's time to move up there.
Hmm.
And I've been up here for like 8 or 9 years now, and um, I love it.
Yeah. That's that was not that long of a story. That was a great story. Thank you for sharing. Um,
I gave you the condensed version.
yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more things happening throughout that time.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. So when you were freelancing, I know that like the OC is kind of known for a lot of like makeup is known for a lot of wedding or bridal kind of makeup, because it's a gorgeous location. A lot of people like love to get married there. Were
Mhm.
you kind of delving into that arena as well, or was it primarily just kind of fashion and beauty kind of shoots that you were doing when you were building your book?
I never primarily focused or went after bridal or event kind of makeup when I was starting out. I
Mhm.
mean, I would do things if people referred it to me, but I always wanted to do fashion and beauty and celebrity kind of stuff. So mostly I was doing a lot of test shoots.
Yeah.
In the beginning they were pretty rough, but it was more about like gaining the confidence to be on set. I was like so
Mm,
nervous. I had
yeah.
no confidence at all until I
Mm,
became a freelance makeup artist. So
mm,
like doing those test shoots kind of eased me into it because there was no pressure for me, and that kind of built me up to be like, okay, I can really do this.
wow. Yeah. So to go a little deeper, I'm curious kind of what maybe personal struggles have you had to go through as a celebrity makeup artist or, first starting out that you feel have ultimately like led you to kind of thrive in your career as a celebrity makeup artist?
Definitely, it was a confidence issue for me. Like I said, I really had no confidence until I
Mm,
started really actively pursuing my dream.
mhm,
And once I really took the risk and started doing that, it's like everything was so exciting and so new. And every experience like gave me a little bit more. So the more I worked at it, the more confident I felt, not just in my work, but as a person.
mm.
So it was such a gift to really make that leap. And it's scary to do that, but it definitely paid off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What do you think it was that kind of gave you that confidence? I mean, because like you said, working on set and kind of getting used to, the workings of being on set. And for those people that aren't on set, maybe they don't know, but was there something inside that kind of shifted, or did you just feel like you built a sense of more self-esteem, more not ego is not the right word, but a more sense of self? Like, how did that kind of progress? If you can expand on that.
Sure. There's a couple aspects to that, and I'm going to start with something that kind of ties back to that long story I was telling you. Um, and it's a little bit woo woo. But when I was teaching at that makeup school that I went to, there was a student that came up to me one day, and they didn't know anything about my personal life.
Hmm.
And this girl came up to me at the end of class and was like, I don't normally tell people this, but I'm a psychic, and there's something that I'm supposed to tell you. And I'm like,
Whoa.
okay, well, I'm like very open to stuff like that. So I guess she felt comfortable telling
Hmm.
me. And she said, well, it doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm going to describe what I see and you can interpret it how you want to.
Hmm.
And she was like, oh, I see this older man with really silver, beautiful hair, which my grandfather had. And
Hmm.
she goes, he just keeps pointing down at his shoes and they're very shiny. And I just like instantly bursted into tears.
Hmm.
And she was like, he's just wanting to tell you that you're on the right track and he'll make sure it works out for you. Just don't give up.
Wow.
And that was like, sorry, I'm trying not to cry now thinking about it, but that was like such a turning point for me. Sorry.
No, no worries. It's all good.
um, it just like took away my fear
Hmm.
and gave me the encouragement to really do it. And the other part of it, on a less personal note, was assisting.
Hmm.
I got to assist some really great makeup artists. Probably the one I assisted the most was Gregory Arlt when he was working with Gwen Stefani a lot.
Hmm.
And like, oh my God, Gwen Stefani was everything to me as a gay from the 2000s, especially living in Orange County. Um, so it was like living vicariously through other makeup artists that were doing big jobs that I
Mhm.
aspired to do. Just being there and like having none of the pressure be on me was
Yeah.
so encouraging and gave me the confidence to be like, oh, when I get to something like that one day, I'm going to know what to do because I've already seen it.
Yeah.
So that was a huge confidence builder for me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Yeah, you're like bringing tears to my eyes. I was like, "Whoo, not me crying on this podcast." But no, thank you for sharing
I
your heart.
cry every time I tell that story. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold it in.
Yeah. No, that's
Don't want to ruin
beautiful.
my makeup.
Not your
Thank you.
look. No, no tears. Let me rephrase this. Okay, so the name of the podcast is the Creative Lotus, and it's based on the concept of the lotus flower both blooms and seeds at the same time, but it's only from like the muck or the shit under the water that you don't see through photosynthesis that this beautiful flower is able to bloom. And so during the pandemic, I really realized that so many creatives are kind of just like that lotus flower, that like all this struggle and strife under the water that people don't see is what leads to this beautiful lotus blossoming, right? So I'm curious, kind of what has been your beautiful lotus flower blossoming moment with all maybe this shit and stuff or the struggle underneath the water that's kind of happened in your career thus far?
I mean, definitely that story I just told you about my grandfather was like the biggest like transformative moment for me
Hmm.
really in my entire life, not just my career, but yeah, I think growing up in a small town, being gay and very different, and I was
Hmm.
bullied a lot, like that
Hmm.
had a really lasting impact on me and my confidence, and it really, affected all areas of my life.
Hmm.
So, like I said, once I started pursuing makeup, like my actual dreams and not just working at a counter just to make money and get by,
Hmm.
that's when uh, the water started to like become clearer for me because it was just getting little tastes of power that I really felt like I never had.
Hmm.
So that's really what made me feel like I was coming into bloom, if you want to say that.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's very well said. I totally see that and totally get it. Coming into your
Thank
own,
you.
and you were also started at a young age as well too. So I feel like that also has something to do with it, right? It's kind of like turning the traumas of life and just trying to figure
Mhm.
yourself out. Growing as a young adult as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been a very introspective person. Um, I'm not religious anymore, but I grew up Catholic and then, I'm very interested in spirituality and other religions. And
Hmm.
I've always tried to, find my flaws and ways that I can better myself while at the same time embracing them and not, because I feel like sometimes self help and improvement,
Hmm.
if you're always in a space of like, oh, I need to fix this, I need to get better, you're almost doing a disservice to yourself because you're never happy where you are.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a balance if you have to be like, okay, these are the things about myself that maybe aren't serving me anymore, but you have to give yourself some grace of, how you became that way. And everything is going to take time and effort to change.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you definitely have to look forward and have goals through your personal development, but you also have to be at peace of where you are at the same time.
Absolutely. totally agree. So I'm curious, you kind of tapped into this or mentioned this already, saying, like you grew up very like obviously gay, and I can totally relate, although the irony is I didn't come out to way later. But I'm curious, growing up in the South, like what was that really like for you? Was it really difficult to like, was your family accepting? Did you have to have this big coming out moment? Our industry, I feel like, is very accepting, kind of an understood, or it's kind of almost just kind of like not a thing. But I'm curious, on a personal level, what was your story like?
Like I said, I had kind of a hard time in school. I mean, there might have been a couple other gay kids, but
Mm,
I was very visibly gay since I was a little kid. Like even before I knew I was gay, I was getting
mm,
called every name in the book.
mm,
So I really had a tough time with that. But I am so blessed with my family, especially being for where I'm from. They've always let me be myself.
mm,
And like, even when I was a little kid, they would buy me Barbies because I was like
mm,
obsessed with the Little Mermaid. So any kind of mermaid Barbie, they would buy it for me for Christmas, and just little things like that to show me like, oh, we support you and you can pursue what you're interested in.
mm.
And I started dancing when I was, I think, 5 years old. And that was like my whole life until I was about 16. And so, being a gay dancer in a tiny small town in Kentucky
Yeah.
came with its struggles.
Yeah.
But it's all in how you look at it. I mean, I've definitely done some work to get over those things, but
Mm,
at the same time, I wouldn't change it at all. Like, I think being bullied for me, like, gave me this deep compassion and
wow.
love for people that maybe I wouldn't have had before because I would never want to treat people the way that I got treated.
Right.
So I try to see the best in people, not to a fault, but I really feel like it changed my perspective, and I'm thankful for it.
Wow. Yeah. So in my Buddhist practice, we talk about turning kind of poison into medicine. And so your story that you just shared is just that. It's
Hmm.
like you took this situation and completely like transformed it to be
Yeah.
able to, yeah, make it into something where you want to treat others as you weren't treated, right? And like shifting the paradigm to be able to,
Hmm.
treat others with that respect. So that's amazing. So my next question is, what has been your greatest achievement that you personally take pride in, but maybe that you're not necessarily outwardly known for? And this doesn't have to be career related. It can just kind of be anything that you've achieved.
Um, oh my gosh. My greatest achievement. Uh, I can't think of like a particular career milestone, but um, gosh, to me, it's just like the fact that I'm constantly reminding myself of where I came from and how far I've come and how much work it took to get there, and I'm just like constantly feeling proud of myself.
Mm.
Um, Not in a conceited way, but I wouldn't say there's a particular event that made me feel like, oh, now I'm here.
Yeah, got it. No, that totally makes sense. I'm curious, kind of who was your first celebrity that you were able to, do makeup on, and kind of if you can share what was that process like of getting to that point. You talked about earlier where you were assisting makeup artists that helped you to build the confidence, but then like when did it become your own celebrity client and you were
Uh,
able to like do that for yourself?
well, I'd say the first several years of my freelance career, like other than the assisting, I
Hmm.
was working with a lot of clothing brands,
Mm,
doing like e-commerce shoots, which was great because it helped me, make a steady living,
yeah.
and was also great practice doing photo shoots every day.
Mm,
But I did that for years until I feel like my agents kind of decided I was ready to take on celebrity stuff,
hmm.
which is totally different. You're dealing with a lot of different personalities and you're collaborating with a lot more people.
Yeah.
Stylists, hairstylists, managers, uh, publicists, the celebrity, like it, it's definitely a skill that you have to learn
Hmm.
through practice
Yeah.
and doing it. Sorry, I got distracted again. What
You're all
did I
good.
answer your question?
Kind of, sort of. No, I was just gonna say, who was your first?
I'm trying to think of like, oh, my first celebrity. You know what? I have to really think about this. Um, okay, let's look back through the old Instagram. That's my way of remembering things because I have terrible memory.
I love it. I love it.
But I mean, I'd say like now, like someone that I still
Yeah,
work with
consistently
that
work with.
like I
Yeah.
feel kind of helped shift my career
Hmm.
was Lily Singh.
Mm,
I still work with her a lot, and I feel like that has kind of shifted my career, and
mm,
especially I'd say since I've met her, I've kind of fallen into this niche of working with non-white women. I mean,
mm.
I do still work with white women, but the majority of my clients are not white, and I never sought out to do that, but I think
Mhm,
because of working with her, working with other skin tones can be challenging for people, and it's
mm.
amazing to me that in 2023 there are makeup artists that can't do it, which is
Right.
inexcusable to me, but um I feel like that really put me in this other phase of my career.
Just throwing a little bit of shade there, just a little thought, just a little. You can't do it. That's a problem. Um,
Well, I mean, how can you call yourself a makeup artist if you can't do
yeah,
makeup on anyone that sits in your chair? I mean,
yeah. I totally feel you. I totally get
at
it.
that point, I'd say you're a makeup enthusiast and not a makeup artist.
Shots fired. Shots
I
fired, y'all.
mean,
That's what's up. I love it. Now we're getting the real shade, real tea. Okay, I love it. No, that's incredible. I think the fact that you are focused on, non-white skin and also kind of it also shows the more inclusivity of kind of where the industry is at as well, right? I think I mean we still have a long ways to go, but the fact that you are
yeah,
working with these different celebrities that are, non-white women that are, you know, beautiful and are, in the spotlight of whatever array that they're working in is kind of incredible, because it shows that we're making some progress there. So that's awesome. What I know you said you started working
definitely.
at the Dior counter. Are you like a Dior ambassador or enthusiast, or kind of what is your go-to makeup?
I mean, I'm still a wild, crazy for Dior. I'm
Hmm.
not, paid to use Dior, but
Yeah.
they are generous to me with
Mm,
products. I'm
amazing.
very lucky at this point in my career that a lot of brands support me.
Yeah.
So, but as far as my favorites, I mean, Dior, Pat McGrath, like
Mm,
one of the greatest makeup artists of all time,
yeah.
and her products are incredible.
Mm,
I use a lot of NARS, and Francois NARS, also incredible artist.
hmm.
And Viseart, it's a French color line, mostly eyeshadows and blushes.
Mm.
I actually used to work with them quite a bit. I'm friends with the owner of that. And it's a pro brand, but I do feel like consumers are starting to know about it as well.
Got it. That's so cool. I love it.
Part of what keeps makeup interesting for me, because I don't always get to do like creative, cool looks. Like sometimes
Mhm.
you're just making someone look how they look, but enhanced.
Right.
So it can get a little repetitive sometimes. So for me, the way to keep it interesting is there's always new products coming out. So I'm like, okay, well, how can I achieve the same look, but using new things, different
Mhm.
things, doing it in different orders, changing placement just a little bit. Like, I'm sure if someone else looked at it, they would like, oh, these look exactly the same. But when I look at it, I can see why it's different. So it's like every time I do a makeup, there's some sort of experiment I'm doing or some way I'm challenging myself because that's what keeps it fresh.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that's true artistry, right? Is like you may only have a paintbrush and, these colors or this paint, but it's like, how do I keep on reinventing, what it is that I'm doing, but still making it like authentically yourself, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
like you said, there's more products always coming out, but like you may not be able to like paint a full, crazy face on someone because they can't look like that on the red carpet or for a photo shoot, but like you are able to kind of switch it up and kind of test your artistic ability. So that's super cool. I love
Mhm.
that.
I think one thing that all makeup artists we get such a rush off of
Hmm.
is like, I call it MacGyvering. So, like, if someone asks you for something, like, I don't know, purple glitter liner, and you're like, I don't have purple glitter liner, but you're
Mm,
like looking through all your stuff and you figure out a way to make it out of what you have. And when you do that and you're successful at it, it's like, damn, I'm so good. Like, it just gives you such a rush
yeah,
to like make something out of nothing.
yeah, absolutely. I love it. MacGyvering things. Yeah. It's so true though. Like that's really
Hmm.
the artistry of it, like that's the cool fun part of being able to be an artist and yeah, coming up with the creative concept on the spot, even if you don't seemingly have the thing that the client may be asking for. So very cool. I'm curious, kind of, what is your greatest weakness? But when you recognize that weakness kind of coming up or showing, rearing its head, what do you do to kind of combat it in the moment so that it kind of doesn't keep repeating itself?
I'd say definitely in the age of social media, something that I can struggle with, and I think all artists struggle with it, is comparing yourself.
Yeah.
Um, Not just your work, but like your career path to other people.
Yeah.
And you do have to constantly remind yourself like everyone has a different career trajectory. Everyone's going to make it at different paces. Some people are going to blow up right away. Some people are going
Mhm.
to like slowly burn to the top. It definitely can be like you can't get into doom scrolling.
So
Like
true.
looking at other people doing things and being like, why am I not doing this? Why
Hmm.
is this so much better than what I'm doing?
Hmm.
You really have to like switch your mindset and be like, wow, I'm happy for them. Like they're really doing it and doing something cool. Like, congratulations for them. My time will come to do that. You have, I think if you come from a place of being jealous or hard on yourself because you're not there,
Hmm.
um, you're kind of blocking those opportunities energetically. So you
Hmm.
really have to be happy, genuinely happy for other people's success
Right.
to attract more success to you.
Yeah. So, so true. Yeah. I'm super guilty of that myself. And I've really had to do like, yeah, some work to try and
Yeah,
not be.
we all are.
Yeah. And I think you make a valid point, right? Like social media has almost kind of like doubled that energy of comparison because you're constantly inundated with like everyone else's stuff they're doing, and it's like a highlight reel. Like everything you
Mhm.
see is kind of like the best of, right? They're not putting out the shit. They're putting out like the best. And yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely like a mental muscle that you have to build to be able to resist that temptation to compare yourself.
Mm,
And I mean, it does still happen every now and then, but yeah, you have to. Otherwise, you'll just make yourself miserable.
yeah, absolutely. So I know that you just came back from Cannes Film Festival, which looked incredible.
Hmm.
But I'm curious, has there been kind
Yes.
of has there been a moment where you felt like you quote unquote made it in the industry or a highlight of your career that you feel like you'd really, really been working toward for like all these years and then you'd finally like accomplished that achievement?
I would say it's like when I started traveling for work
Mm,
that I was like, I'm legit now.
yeah. Yeah.
And anytime I get to travel somewhere for work, I just feel like so lucky, so grateful. that I
Hmm.
get to go somewhere cool, get paid to be there. Like it's such a treat. So I don't ever take that for granted.
Yeah. No, that is incredible because it is kind of not a luxury, but kind of a luxury, right? To be able to fly somewhere for a
It is.
project. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
mean it's challenging as hair and makeup people know, and probably stylists too. Traveling with all of our stuff is
mhm.
such a hassle.
Yeah.
And you don't always get time to like enjoy the place that you're at.
Yeah.
But I do always try to make time to like, I don't know, at least go to a cool restaurant or dinner somewhere that I've never been. Or
Mhm.
like when I was just in Cannes, that was my second time doing Cannes, but my fourth time in that part of France, because my
Mhm.
friend used to live there.
Mm.
So I'm like, well, while I'm here, I'm just gonna take an extra week and not work and just
Nice.
enjoy being here. Like I'm already all the way over here. I might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. I feel like a lot of artists don't get to or don't choose to do that, right? Because it is kind of this like semi hustle culture. So, yeah, to be able to enjoy
Mhm.
yourself in a beautiful place like Cannes is
Yeah.
incredible. So,
You have to make time. You have to make time to do things that are not work and take breaks. And it's hard when you work for yourself and you really do feel like you have to hustle all the time. But
mhm.
if you don't take those breaks and just enjoy living your life as a person and not as a artist or a business,
Mhm.
um, you're gonna burn yourself out and you're just gonna be resentful of your work.
Yeah, relaxation and also yeah, having kind of time for yourself is so necessary. And I think as Americans as well, we are kind of
Mhm.
the least vacation friendly country in the entire world. Like we don't really give ourselves the break we need. Yeah.
I know it's wild. I'm like dying to move to Europe one day, so maybe one
Mm,
day I'll have vacation culture life. But I mean, I'm pretty good at treating myself and taking time for myself.
yeah.
And it can be challenging, like when you're on a trip and you get an email or a text from someone like, "Oh, can you do this job?" And sometimes it's a great opportunity and you're not there,
Mm,
and you just kind of have to let it go. And other opportunities will pop up. But my friends and I always joke like, if you're not busy, plan a vacation, and you'll probably have to cancel it.
it's so
As soon
true.
as you say you're gonna take a step away from work, then all the jobs come in.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah.
there's never a good time. You have to make the time
Yeah.
and commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah, make the time, commit to it, and know that, like you said, the work is still going to come in, even if you can't do those jobs. That like your work stands for itself, and you're able to. Yeah, the jobs will still keep coming, even if you take the
Yeah.
vacation.
And that kind of for me ties back to a little bit of the like comparing yourself to other people
Hmm.
is like, okay, if I'm on vacation and an opportunity comes along and I can't do it, that probably wasn't meant for me. Maybe I would have
Hmm.
done that job and it would have been a really challenging client, or they wouldn't have liked me, or same thing when you're seeing other people doing things like you wish you were doing, like maybe that wasn't a good fit for you and that's why you're not doing it. So you really
Yeah,
have to I'm an eternal optimist, so it's hard work, but you have to do a lot of mental gymnastics to reframe things.
yeah,
Otherwise, you'll make yourself miserable.
yeah. Totally agree. Yeah, the biggest issue I think with yeah the comparison factor, but also the idea that yeah having to almost tell yourself if if I'm not getting this or I'm not doing this, there's a reason for it, and I have to be completely okay with that, you know. And I think as an artist and a freelancer, you know, like
Mhm.
this is your livelihood, so it is really difficult to say that to yourself or know that that is actually the situation. But more often than not, that really is the situation because it's kind of like, you know, I've done gotten or I've bid for jobs, not gotten them, and then found out what happened on set or what the shoot was. And you're like, oh, thank God I didn't do that. Like, there's no way in hell I wanted
Right.
to do that, you know? So, yeah, you
Yeah.
have to know that there's some sense of whatever you believe in, there's some sense of protection there for you to not be in that alignment for that specific thing. So,
Totally. I think that comes up for hair and makeup people a lot too, because like you can't always be available for a client when they request you.
right.
Like there are going to be times where they're going to use someone else because you weren't available.
Hmm.
And there are going to be times maybe that client doesn't come back. Maybe they do like someone else better than you. But, maybe that client's going to be turning into someone difficult to work with when they're uh, farther on in their career. And
Hmm.
you're redirecting yourself away from that. And you're creating space for new people that do fit into your life and bring you joy when you work with them. So you really, like I said, it's a lot of mental gymnastics. And I'm not perfect. I do have my moments where things like that get to me, but you really have to remind yourself what's meant for me will happen for me.
Yeah. Well said.
You
What
have to
brings you the
believe it.
yes, exactly. You have to fully commit and believe it for yourself. I'm curious, what kind of brings you the most happiness now versus like young Aaron when you first got into the industry and were out of makeup school?
So, professionally, I would say like back when I was starting, it was like I said yes to everything. Like I just wanted to work all the time. I didn't care if it was a miserable day at work. Like I just wanted to work, to
Hmm.
meet people, to make money. Um, and it's a luxury now later in my career that like, if something comes along and I don't want to do it, I don't do it. So now instead of like focusing on doing it, like taking every single thing, because that used to be what gave me fulfillment, is
Hmm.
being busy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that came after COVID.
Mm.
Um, Now it's like what gives me fulfillment is when I get to work with clients, hairstylists, stylists, photographers. Like when you have a really good day where everyone just seems to be like on the same page and creating something really great,
Hmm.
that's what gives me fulfillment is
Mm.
just being in alignment with people like that for one common goal and it being successful,
Yeah.
as opposed to just being busy and making money.
Yeah. No, that's huge. That's the dream, I think, right? For everyone is to really really enjoy what you're doing and not just doing it for the hustle of got to make the coin so I can pay the bills and everything else, but really like loving what
Mhm.
you do.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
not saying every day is like that and every job is like that, but when you have one, it's like, oh, this is why I do it. This makes me so happy.
that's incredible. Yeah, that's the dream life, as they say. What what is your work ethic like? Obviously, like you've already shared, kind of being a creative is not an easy task. Freelancing is not, for everybody. But how do you kind of ensure that you're working consistently, but also kind of like what is the day in the life like for you as a celebrity makeup artist?
I mean, I'm lucky. I have a great relationship with my agents and
Hmm.
my clients. So I feel like a lot of my business now at this point in my career is through referrals. Like
Hmm.
somebody knows somebody and passes my name along. I feel like that's most of where my business comes from now. But a day in the life as a makeup artist. Well, you know, a lot of waking up early, very early. Um, I'd say most of my business now is do and goes. Like I do
Hmm.
the makeup, I get someone ready, and then I'm done and I
Out.
leave,
Yeah.
which can be a little hard to leave leave your work in control of someone else after you're
Mm.
gone. But I do a lot of that now, and you know, some days I only have one, some days I have multiple in a day.
Mm.
So it's not that often anymore that I work like, a 10, 12 hour shoot.
Hmm.
Um, But other than that, there's always homework, is what I call it.
Mm.
So I'm always cleaning, sanitizing, washing brushes. I'm like, I'm very OCD. You can tell like things perfectly lined up. Um,
Yes.
so I spend so much of my time when I'm not at work, like
Mhm.
preparing for work to make my
Mhm.
job easier.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I think, well, yeah, because you're using makeup on people's faces, right? Or bodies for that matter as well. It is kind of like there has to be like a certain level of like sanity and also like cleanliness necessary for the work that you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be sanitary for sure. I mean, that's like bare minimum.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, being super organized saves you so much time when you're doing makeup. Like I could look in my kit, I could get something out of my kit without even looking, just by feel, because I know where everything is at all times and it always
Mm.
goes in the same place. I'm like a little bit psycho like that. So that saves me so much time. I'm never like rummaging around looking for things.
Mm.
But that, I mean, that's a discipline you have to commit to. But the other part of that is it really puts clients at ease when they see that your things are so perfectly organized. Like,
Mhm.
one, they can tell that it's clean. Two, when they see that, they're just like, oh, they know what they're doing. And they instantly kind of relax and trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely makes sense. Yeah, I recently got my makeup done actually for a friend's wedding, and I haven't had like makeup done in forever.
Oh,
I know. And it was airbrush too, but it's so funny because I think you don't realize what the process is like until you've had it done yourself. And then you're like, oh wow, like you're everything that you just said, like you want to see the artist, like everything is tidy, everything is organized because it puts you at ease, not having to worry like, oh my God, if like anything touches me and I get, a breakout or I freak like whatever, like
mhm.
unlimited amount of things that could possibly happen. But yeah, to be kind of the best, version of the makeup artist, and being super on top of it is definitely reassuring as the person getting their makeup done.
I think part of that is not just, putting clients at ease, but there are a lot of people that are really good at makeup. And so, what clients are going to remember is how you made them feel. So,
Right.
part of that is putting them at ease with being organized and sanitary.
Yeah.
The other part is like, honestly, your personality. Are they having a good time with you? Some of my clients, I give them like shoulder massages if they're feeling
Mhm.
stressed. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of have like a calming voice. So I think that's helpful for me in my career.
Mhm.
Um, so, like I said, there are a lot of people that are good at makeup. So you have to find ways that set yourself apart that aren't based on just your makeup.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. Personality and who you are and how you represent yourself and your business or your brand, right, is also really crucial in that. I'm curious, do you ever use assistants
Yeah.
with the work that you do? And if so, kind of how does that relationship kind of work working with another artist?
I honestly don't get to use one very much.
Hmm.
I loved assisting when I was doing it. Um, so when I do get to have one, it's usually someone that I've worked with before or I know through another makeup artist.
Hmm.
It can be, you don't want to take too much of a risk on an assistant because,
Yeah.
you don't want someone that's super chatty or like trying to stand out themselves. Like you're there
Right.
to be an assistant.
Right.
Um, but it's a little challenging for me to have an assistant because I'm so used to doing everything myself. And I'm so particular with, like I said, my kit and everything. So a lot of times I'm like, oh, like, really, you're just here. Like, you can hold my set bag for me, or maybe watch someone on set while I'm getting someone else ready
Hmm.
and step in and like powder if they need to. My number one thing I ask assistants to do is like, will you remind me to drink water today?
Mm, yeah.
So, I tend to use people that are other makeup artists that are also my friends just because, like, I enjoy having the company around.
Yeah.
Um, but it can be hard for me to let go of control of things because I really like things done a very particular way.
Yeah.
And the people that I do use when I do get to have an assistant, they know that about me and they know how I like to do things. So I'm a little more willing to let them do more
Yeah.
than I would with someone new.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. Yeah. It's a relationship of trust for sure. And I mean, similarly to what you're talking about with assistants, I feel the same way with like a photo assistant. Like I shouldn't say this, but I'm very
Mhm.
controlling in the way of how I like things to go. And like, if you haven't, like you said, if you have an assistant that you don't know that well, or they're, trying to like make friends with the client or trying to like stand up like almost over you, you're kind of like, what is going on here? So yeah, using friends or having
Yeah.
people that you can trust is, definitely not only helpful but it's kind of necessary, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, I've had issues with people in the past before that like are just way too talkative. That's like my
Mm,
number one thing because I do talk with my clients when I'm working with them, but
mhm.
like when I'm really focused on something, like I don't talk very much.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like, doing fucking red lip liner. It's like I don't need people talking right now or
Yeah.
doing a very precise eyeliner.
Hmm.
So it's nice to have people that, are on the quieter side.
Yeah.
But then when
Totally.
we're just like hanging out offset after the makeup's done, like I want someone to kiki with and keep me company all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally makes sense. Yeah. It's the best to have your friends on set. I mean, that's like the culmination of everything that's
Yeah.
perfect in that realm. So
It's the best part, I think, about um, becoming more successful as an artist is, giving opportunities to your other artist friends and like trying to help everyone come up together is so rewarding.
yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because at the top of your game is kind of can be the loneliest thing, right? So why not help others people to kind of get there with you? It's not just like you and you alone, if you will. So, yes.
Mhm.
I'm curious, kind of what have you learned about yourself that through this industry and working that you didn't know prior to getting into it?
I feel like something I've kind of stepped into over the past few years is like I'm very good at reverse psychology, which is a lot of our job. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of mind reading
Mm,
and like explaining, giving suggestions of ideas you have to people in a way where almost they think they made the decision,
yeah.
but really it's you that are making the decision. So you learn to kind of be crafty with the way that you word things, and that's a very valuable tool. I mean, it can, I guess, to some people would sound manipulative, but you always have good intentions because you're trying to, convince someone of what you believe is the best decision based on your expertise.
Right.
So that's been a power I think I've definitely come into that is
Mm,
very useful
yeah.
in all areas of life, really. But
Yes. No, that's so true. I feel like you have to kind of, yeah, sometimes you want something to happen and you do have to use like reverse psychology to get that thing to happen. So the person feels
yeah,
like they're in charge, even though in
yeah,
reality is that you're in charge. So, yeah,
right. You're like given the illusion of choice,
exactly.
but really
Exactly.
there's not.
Yeah, exactly. What's been one of the biggest jobs, if you will, and however you want to kind of phrase that or put that, but that you've done that you've kind of were kind of amazed by being on set or working with a specific person, that you were kind of like, holy shit, like this is like big time, big deal.
I'd say it's like when you get to work with people that you've really looked up to for a long time. Like, I work with Molly Shannon sometimes, and like, as a, you know, gay artsy kid in Kentucky, like Molly Shannon on SNL was like,
Yeah.
damn, it is so cool to be weird and different. So like
Mm,
when you grow up and you get to meet someone like that and they're just everything you want them to be,
mm,
that those are always great moments. I can think of some other people that were like that. Just kind of pinch me moments are the things that are really inspiring.
totally makes sense. Yeah. That'd be so cool to, yeah, to work
And
with someone.
it's not always what you dreamt it would be.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know,
Uh,
they say you don't want to meet your heroes, but luckily I haven't really had any bad experiences.
mm,
But
yeah.
it is like when you meet people that you really look up to, you realize, oh, they're actually they're just a person.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's always interesting.
Yeah. The realities of who they are as a person come to light the moment that you meet them. And yeah, the idea that they might not be what you in your head have made up, kind of, yeah, some, hopefully it's good, but not always the case. But it sounds like you've been fortunate to meet the people and
Yeah.
enjoy the time with them.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, who has been your biggest supporter or fan, and that's really helped you to kind of keep going through the struggles of, being a creative and a celebrity makeup artist, and the freelance life.
Hmm. I would say it's definitely the people I knew before I
Hmm.
did this. So, my family, I have a handful of friends that I've known, over 20 years, and having their support and their excitement for me when I'm doing something,
Hmm.
um, really is what means the most to me. And especially like when you're in it and you're doing this all the time, you can almost kind of not necessarily feel jaded, but
Hmm.
because you live in it, you don't really see from the outside like the progress that you're making.
Right.
So it's really nice to hear from people that aren't in this, knew you before you did this, and kind of getting reminded through their eyes of, you know, the hard work you're doing is paying off.
Yeah. The outside perspective is always nice to have because it kind of keeps you grounded, if you will. At least I found.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, you don't want to be surrounded by yes people either that just think everything you do is amazing. Like, you don't want people blowing smoke up your ass all the time, but those genuine moments that you get from people from the before times are always great.
Yeah. 100% true. All my friends from Sacramento will definitely keep it real with me, and they're like, "Okay, Hollywood, like calm down, shut up. Like you you don't you don't need to act that certain way." And I was like, "Oh shit. Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you for the reality check. Thank you so much."
Right. Yeah. They do put you in your place when you need to be put in your place.
Exactly. Yeah. I know. And especially living in LA for so long, I feel like it definitely kind of not takes its toll, but you don't even realize how like LA you may have become, or like how, like you said, jaded to your situation. And so those people are definitely the ones that are like,
Yeah.
wake up, bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. I know every time I go home and visit my family,
Hmm.
because most of them still live in Kentucky or in Tennessee now, some, but I'm always like, whoa, I forget like how different my life is and how privileged I am because I'm in it. So you just get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Yeah. Oh, so let's talk about COVID a little bit. Obviously you are very
Okay.
interpersonal with clients, in their face, doing their makeup and everything. So what was it like for you during COVID? Was it a struggle? Was it kind of, was there freedom there for you? And then kind of how have you gotten through it and now into kind of all the way mid through 2023?
I mean, wow, it really took a hit on my industry for sure.
Hmm.
Like, I'd say the first 6 months of it, most makeup artists weren't working at all.
Hmm.
And then, for the next 2 years, it would like come and go with the waves and variants of COVID. So that was
Hmm.
challenging. Luckily, I've always been like a really good saver.
Hmm.
So I didn't really have that stress, which was nice. And I'm very thankful for that. Um, but what I'd say the biggest struggle of COVID for me, and what I've heard from a lot of people that are artists, is when you're not able to do what you do for a living, that's also your art, you kind of forget who you are. So I had been so busy being a makeup artist
Hmm.
for, I think it was 15 or ish years by the time COVID got here. When I wasn't busy doing that, I'm like, who am I? What do I care
Hmm.
about? Because it's a blurry situation when you do what you love and it's also like your main interest in life.
Yeah. Right.
So when that's taken away from you, you feel so lost. So a big part of COVID for me was kind of rediscovering um, my old interests and hobbies.
Yeah.
So I started painting some again during COVID. I um, got back into scuba diving again. Um, I started taking some dance classes again once we were able to.
Yeah.
Just finding ways to like enrich my life that aren't related to makeup or my work at all.
Hmm.
And I actually like to ask people about that a lot now, like either at work or my friends, even on dates, is what are your hobbies? And it's
Mm.
honestly like a hard question for most people to answer because and I usually have to clarify to people what a hobby is, and it can't it has to be something that's purely for joy. Like there can't be any attachment to what the outcome is.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Like, and I also don't count exercise as a hobby. Like you might
Mm.
enjoy doing it, but you do have a motive of going there.
Mm.
So when you're doing something like dancing or painting or being in nature, um, spending time with your pets, whatever you do, um, that's purely just for enjoyment. And I think in hustle culture, um, especially as freelance artists, you can kind of lose sight of that because you become so obsessed with your work and being
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah. No, so
And
well
you have to
said.
have those other parts of yourself to keep you fueled.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll burn out.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's crazy to me how many people, like you're talking about, don't have hobbies, like legitimate don't have hobbies.
Before COVID, like I probably couldn't have answered that question because all I ever did
Same.
was think about makeup. And when I wasn't working, I was thinking about makeup.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
glad I
then,
got to kind of rediscover those other parts of myself.
yeah. Well, it's funny too, because you also mentioned dating. And I think that's like the most present and like obvious void of hobby or lack thereof, when you start talking to people and like you're trying to find common interests, and then you're like, so what are your hobbies? And they're like, I like going to the gym 6 days a week, and I like to go hiking, and yeah, I like to drink beers with friends. And I'm like,
Oye.
I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, that's not really hobby, boo boo, but okay, good for you. I like that you
Right.
like those things.
I'm happy that makes you happy, but that's
Yeah,
not for
exactly.
me.
Yeah, yeah. So true. Do you find really joy in the fact that your schedule is not consistent in the sense that it could change at any moment because you're freelance? Do you feel like that is what works best for you?
I mean, it's definitely something that took a lot of getting used to. I feel like
Mm,
it takes years for you to really feel comfortable with the ups and downs.
yeah,
Um, but it's like sometimes we might work every single day for a month, and then sometimes I might not work for 2 or 3 weeks at all.
right.
And used to, or in the beginning, like that really can mess with you.
Yeah.
But now I've learned like really to enjoy it
Hmm.
because I usually feel like if I'm having a downtime where I'm not working, I just have faith in whatever the powers that be are that means I'm about to be so busy. I wish I had a break. So you better
Mm.
fucking enjoy it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that takes a lot of practice to feel comfortable with that. And I still get moments where I feel stressed about it, but for the most part, I'm pretty good at dealing with the ebbs and flows.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think, yeah, it is so hard being freelance in that regard, but the fact that you're able to kind of know that like it's going to be so busy very soon, so like let's just enjoy this time when it's dead
Mhm.
is a huge mental kind of like takeover. The fact that you're able to kind of like jump over that hurdle and recognize that. Because I feel like a lot of freelancers don't, they just like it's constant panic and constant kind of like, and I'm guilty of it as well. But like, yeah, it's just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm like, I'm never gonna work again.
Yeah,
I'm like gonna die. Yeah.
yeah. Oh my God, that was also another thing during COVID is like, I'm like, am I gonna have to find a new career? Like, one, I
Mm,
have no education other than high school. I've never done anything else, so I have like no
wow.
skills. I'm like, I don't even think I could get hired at a restaurant. Like,
Dead
I'm
ass.
completely useless if I'm not doing makeup. And then the other part of me is like, I told you, I'm like, I can't go to college. Like,
Mm,
there's no way. I'm just not made for that. So I feel like in the beginning, I was like, what other careers could I do?
mm,
And the more I thought about it, I'm like, there's just not anything else I want to do. So I'm just going to ride this one out and see what
yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's huge though. The fact that like, you're sticking it out even through like you said, the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs and all 3 years of COVID and kind of are determined to like make that happen. Cause I feel you. I felt the same way. I was kind of like, I think I was putting together a resume or something because I was also questioning like what am I gonna do in COVID. And it was kind of like, bitch, you really don't have any other skills. Like you didn't do well in academics. You're not really like you could
Yeah.
do business stuff, but like, yeah. It was a reality check for sure.
I think we all kind of went through that little identity crisis.
Yeah, very, very, very,
But I
very
think the
true.
people that, really are passionate about it and really want it stuck with it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, kind of looking to the future, what are some goals that you have set for yourself for maybe the next 3 to 5 years or even 10 years from now, which I know seems so far away, but well, I'm sure we'll be here faster than we can possibly think of.
Right. Um, well, obviously I want to keep working with celebrities and, climb the ranks of the celebrity ladder, I guess, the fame ladder.
Hmm.
Um, Really, what I would like to start getting more into is product development.
Mm,
Like I said, my friend that owns Visyart, I've helped her a lot with creating color stories and imagery for their line. I've helped some
amazing.
other brands with expanding their foundation range
Hmm.
and their skin tones. So I really enjoy that side of the industry as well, and I'd really like to do a lot more of that.
Okay. Awesome.
My
Want to move?
ultimate goal is to move to France.
Oh, Okay. Yes. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful France.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any plans or goals or determinations to like create your own makeup line? I mean, kind of on that vein that you were just talking about.
I really used to want to do that. I'm a little undecided now because I mean the market is just so saturated now. Like
Right.
beauty influencers making their own brands. Now it's like the age of celebrity brands.
Yeah.
Like there's so much out there. Like what hasn't been done? Even if you can think of something that hasn't been done, like there's a lot of competition out there. So
Right.
maybe one day, I think if I did, I'd probably want to actually be more involved in skincare than I would with makeup.
Makeup. Mhm.
Um, 'Cause I'm like very passionate about skincare. Um, so we'll see. I don't have any
Yes.
definite plans or aspirations for that anymore like I used to, but I'm definitely open to it.
Yeah. I love that. And what part of France would you want to move to? Or do you plan to, we should say plan to move to because it's going to happen. We're putting that out there.
Plan, yeah. I know ever since I got back, I've been back for I think almost 2 weeks now.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, how can I really do this? Like, what's the visa process? Like, where
Yeah.
can I get work? How can I really make money? Like, what's the cost of living?
Yeah.
Driving myself crazy. But I really want to live in the south of France. So, like, Nice area. Um, and actually, back to the product question, if I'd want to do my own line, as you can tell, I have a passion for fragrance.
Yes.
And most fragrance is developed and comes from the south of France.
Hmm.
There's a particular region called Grasse where almost all fragrance is developed now. So I think if I was to have my own line or even like a second career, I think I'd rather move into the fragrance category than skincare and makeup.
Got it.
So
Oh,
in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to move to the south of France, develop my own fragrances, and just live this fabulous life.
yeah.
And I'm going to do it because when I make my mind up about something, I always make it happen.
Yeah. Is that in your like 3 to 5 year plan or like, yeah, do you have kind of a timeline set? I mean, you said you're already looking into
Yeah,
trying to get the freaking visas
yeah.
and shit. So,
I'm 30. Yeah, yeah. I'm 35 now, and my plan is to be living there by the time I'm 40.
yes.
So
Amazing.
within the next 5 years. Yeah. And I take French lessons, even though my French is not that great, but I'm like committed to working towards it.
Yeah. That's great. Such a great determination and goal to have. Yeah, and you're like already working and manifesting it in your life. So I look forward to now I have somewhere to go visit. Yes, vacation. Let's go to Nice.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it'll be so fun. We're gonna eat all the bread, drink all the
Yes.
wine.
Yes. So, so good. Oh, French food. Yum. I'm curious, what would you
Yeah.
say to your future self 15 years from now? Almost like a message in the bottle. So you're living in France, obviously, we're already there, but what would you say to your future self?
Okay. That's actually a very good question because I feel like most of the time you think about what you would say to your past self.
Right.
But my future self, I would say you fucking did it and you stuck it out and you made it happen. Like enjoy your life now. You did
Mm,
it.
yeah. Beautiful. Well said. And then I like to ask everyone, is there a motto or phrase that you personally live by that is kind of like either kept you going or is the thing that kind of like has always stuck with you?
hmm I do. And my personal motto, and I tell myself this every day, sometimes multiple times a day, is I say I am the luckiest person in the world. And I really believe that. I was like randomly lucky with, contests and stuff as a kid and now I feel really lucky that I get to do what I love, support myself doing it, meet amazing people, and I just feel like truly blessed. I feel very lucky. I tell myself that every day, and I feel like that just kind of opens myself up to great possibilities. And it's a very open-ended mantra where there's no specific outcome. Like, I'm not really big on manifesting because
Mm.
to me, like, you don't always know what's best for yourself.
Hmm.
So if you're manifesting like on something very specific that you want,
Hmm.
to me, it's almost like an abuse of the power that you've been given by the universe.
Hmm.
And so I like things that are open-ended like that, um, because it kind of just puts you in this state where you're ready to receive whatever is the best outcome for you. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's beyond anything you could ever imagine for yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So well said. You know,
Thank you.
yeah. Yeah. In my Buddhist practice, we talk about how our lives are actually like the macrocosm of or I'm always like, fuck this up. It's the macro of the micro, or no, we're the micro of the macrocosm. That's what I'm trying to say. Which is that like our lives,
Right.
as you're kind of talking about, we have this incredible life. Like you're talking about this lucky life that is so much bigger than our little brains are even able to kind of make sense of. So like, yeah, being able to like try and understand that or come up with the ideas for that doesn't always work. So yeah, being open to the infinite
Yeah.
possibilities is such an incredible thing.
hmm And I think part of that is like being able to look back on things that you've been through that weren't great. Everyone goes through fucked up things, everyone has trauma.
Yeah.
But if you do the work to either figure out your part in it or kind of see what you can learn from it, um, I'm even thankful for the shitty stuff that happened to me. Like, because now when I can look back on it, they've only ever redirected me where I needed to
Mm,
go or taught me something about myself that I needed to learn in order to be better. So, I mean, some people would say that's denial. I don't deny negative emotions and events, but you do have to kind of reframe things sometimes. And my other kind of mantra kind of goes along with being I'm the luckiest person in the world. Um, I'm a follower of the Course in Miracles. So I don't know
mm.
if you're familiar with like Marianne Williamson or
Oh yeah.
she didn't write the Course in Miracles, but she's a teacher of it. And it's kind of the idea that the general energy life force that's in everything, even things that aren't alive, like this door, the things that hold the atoms together,
Mhm.
that energy is in everyone. And there's a natural intelligence to the universe where things will automatically grow to their highest potential.
Mm,
Like the difference with people is we have our own free will. So we can interrupt that process and get in our own way and form blocks. So my other mantra is that I just pray to whatever it is that I be a vessel for that energy to flow through me so that
mm.
along with the luck thing, whatever is my greatest possibility will happen through me.
Yes. Beautifully said. Drop the mic. Pop.
Which may be too woo woo for people, but
No, no, no.
I'm not saying don't have goals, but don't be so attached to them because something better could be coming along.
Yes. Damn, that was well said. Very good, Aaron. Thank you so much. Well, that really does wrap it up.
I have to
I
credit
just
Marianne Williamson for that.
There you go. There you go. I just like to ask, where can people follow you and see your work, as well as all your social media tags? I'll of course link everything below in the show notes and whatnot,
Sure.
but for everyone to know where they can follow you.
Sure. I'm primarily on Instagram, Aaron Paul Beauty. And then one of my recent projects to kind of challenge myself is I did start a TikTok also at Aaron Paul Beauty. I'm
Nice.
trying to like dip my toe in the influencing world.
Nice.
And it's actually been kind of fun because I can be pretty shy, especially
Mm,
about putting myself out there on the internet.
mm.
So it's been a nice challenge for me, and I'm enjoying doing it. So even if it doesn't turn into anything, I like talking about makeup and products. So if you're interested, take a look.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in France because that's like a gotta go. And
Yes,
everything else
we're gonna
we
party
come
in
out with.
France.
Yes.
Thank
Fantastic.
you so much, Alan. This was a treat.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to this week's episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. And a huge thank you to Aaron Paul for all of his time and his stories. This week's Buddhist quote of the week is: "The real struggle in life is with ourselves. The true secret of success is the refusal to give up, the refusal to fail. It lies in the struggle to win the battle against one's own weaknesses," by Daisaku Ikeda. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this week's episode. Go ahead and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Give us a big thumbs up if you're watching here on YouTube. Check out this video right here if you want a full episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. And until then, I will see you in that video. Thank you so much. Please stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. What is up, Creative Lotus family? Thank you so much for supporting the Creative Lotus Podcast. Go ahead and follow us on social media. On Facebook, we're at the Creative Lotus Podcast. Here on YouTube, maybe you're watching, we're at the Creative Lotus Podcast as well. And on Instagram, we're at the Creative Lotus Pod. And my personal handle is at Alan Zaki. We say thank you once again. Go ahead and subscribe, listen, write a review. And until the next episode, we'll see you there. Have a wonderful day and stay safe. Bye-bye.